right, everybody, how's it going? Good evening. Happy holidays. My name is Joe Thompson. I'm the chapter president. I said that just for Mike because he kept asking me who I was. So happy holidays. Welcome all of you to this holiday season. It's kind of mixed emotions out here today, but I'm glad everybody is here. So we got a lot of stuff I wanted to get through tonight. But first, before we get started, I want to welcome everybody who is a guest tonight. For our list, we got, so I don't need to say his name, right? Okay. Got Jonathan Klinger as a new member this month from Humble. I don't see. Jonathan, are you here? No. Okay.
Hard to hear over the music.
It's hard to hear over the music, even me? Okay. All right. Tell them when they come back. Richard Stewart from Houston.
Wesley,
Wesley's here. Now the party can get started.
It's like live to hear. Yeah, that's feature. It's coming out of features. You got to turn it off up there.
Okay. Hey, Kobe, can you let them meet? All right, I'll try to speak up a little bit louder over the music until they turn it down. All right. So I would also like to recognize the guests that are here today. Yeah, Bill, you got a guest.
I do. Paul Daly, who worked at Fox for many years, was one of the people who were in charge of getting the graphics on the bottom of your screen with the scores and the information. Paul did that for many years up there, and big sports fan, big baseball fan, actually. And he was able to talk him into. We were at Larry Miggins' wake tonight, so they came over together after. So,
all right. What's your name again?
Paul Daly.
Oh, thank you, Paul. Thank you.
And good to repeat that. Now we can hear. About graphics.
Yes, the graphics on the bottom of your screen on during the sporting events, with the scores and the information telling that somebody had a 2-run home run. Paul did that. It was in the group that did that for many years at our facility.
Which is
what? I'm sorry, Fox. It was a Fox Sports before it became Disney and Valley and all that sort of thing. So back 3 iterations ago, update.
good job. I don't remember a single mistake.
All right, and Mike, you brought a guest tonight?
Brought my son-in-law, Dick Adickes.
Wasn't he the
Formerly with the Kannapolis Cannonballers, White Sox organization.
That's right. Welcome back. So what are you doing right now? Besides eating?
Work now.
Work? Okay.
Designing AI robotics.
Designing AI robotics.
Using his degree in mechanical engineering.
Should we be worried about AI robotics? Okay. All right. Well, welcome back. Welcome. Okay.
Welcome back.
Thank you. All right. So we have, again, we have mixed emotions tonight. As many of you know, Larry Miggins, who was a chapter member for a long time, recently passed away. And today was the visitation in the Rosary. Tomorrow will be the funeral mass, and then a private ceremony will be held on Wednesday. Right? Some of the people in this room went to the Rosary and visitation. Yeah. Well, Mike, Irish hat. Oh yeah, Mike is wearing an Irish hat. Larry was a great guy, told a lot of great stories. And what I would like to do, if anybody would like to say a few words about Larry real quick. He affected a lot of people in this room. If anybody want to say anything, please go ahead, take a moment and say something about Larry. Tony.
I just was looking at his records, baseball records, and he played everywhere. Jersey City, Jacksonville in the Sally League, Columbia in the Sally League, Minneapolis in the American Association, Sioux City, Omaha, St. Louis, Houston, of course, Columbus, Anyway, he spent a lot of time in the minor.
Well,
And he saw the. And everywhere he went, he'd go run.
Yeah. Yeah,
A nice little career.
nice little career. Anybody else?
Yeah.
Bob, go ahead.
Now Larry was a very active member in our chapter. He came with Bill McCurdy to our meetings. And Larry always had a story to tell. And most of them were pretty funny. With the Irish brogue. And of course, anybody that knows Larry knows his wife Kathleen, who was just so sensational. I had great fun calling her, right? Because I knew I had to talk to Kathleen first. And she had come in Irish joke. So we're pretty good. But not only did he support our SABR groups, make presentations, his son, Larry Joe, who was known as Long Ball, played for our vintage baseball team. So Larry and his wife would come out and watch us play. And was a good fan. A really good person, good family man. We all know about the 12 year old. You know, he played against Jackie Robinson. You know, the Vin Scully's story. His favorite player was Mark McGwire. And he wrote a song about Mark McGwire. And he would ask every other meeting, can I sing my song? And he always did. What he always sang. And it was kind of cute. And he wanted to get the song to Mark himself. So he packaged it up and he sent it to Mark. Not for any commercial value, just to let him know he wrote the song. Well, he got a certified letter back in almost a week from Mark's agent, threatening to sue him for every penny he had if he would try to copyright or get that song anyway. Stop him from singing the song. But that was our good friend, Larry Miggins. We're gonna miss it big time.
Yeah. Anybody else? Yeah, go ahead, Bill.
I can honestly say I knew Larry Miggins my entire life. I grew up a block away from him. He was always coached his teams at Little League or whatever, but I was the only kid in the whole neighborhood that did not have a Miggins in his class. I was not, how that happened, but I never had that in my class, but just a chance to know him. And we always loved at church things to sit back and talk baseball or talk sports, and just a wonderful man and a wonderful family.
Right. Thank you. Yes. Anyone else? Go ahead, Mike.
Very first meeting I went to, Larry was a speaker. And he had a book that goes, "The Secret to Hitting Home Runs." Now his secret was to take a nap. Yeah. I thought the secret might really be being 6'4" and weighing 260 pounds. He was a big man, but I bought the book. And he used to tell us here that he would, every St. Patrick's Day, he would go, there's some kind of Hibernian tune. He would go sing Danny Boy. And I regret, I always wanted to go sing with him. I never have. So at the Irish Capital Line, and Bob was talking about the humor his wife had. I introduced Nick to her tonight and she said, "My mama always told me never talk to strangers." So what's your name?
That's good.
Yeah. Good people. Maybe Sullivan over there went to school with three of us. Right, Fred? And he did pose for that Sam Houston statue. Yes, he did indeed. I asked one of his sons, the sculptor lived next door to him.
Well, anyone else?
We have that video. We can probably show the video if you want to show that.
Talk about
Yeah, for, go ahead.
the giant statue on 45.
Right.
Put into Huntsville. Sam Houston, Miggins was the model.
Yes, okay, I can see that.
That was in the old bit.
There's a model from the head down, especially his hands, trying to get his hands right. Now, the hands weren't actually Larry's hands. They were actually Mia's. But Neil was the one that did the hands. But it's Larry's body. It was the body of Sam Houston, and then he carved out Sam Houston's face.
But Larry Miggins was actually the model for him to do that sculptor. Sam used.
Learn something every day here. That's wild. Every time I look at the statue now, I'm gonna think of Larry.
Larry's gonna win.
That's right, it's gonna win. Well,
Me too.
there might be some of you in this room that don't know much about Larry. Our chapter member, Jason Bristol, works at KHOU, did a story, interview Larry not that long ago. So sit back for about 3 minutes and learn a little bit about Larry. This nice little story they did.
Baseball players chase numbers like 300, 500, 3,000. But tonight, here's the incredible story of one man closing in on 100.
And I was average age. I was 17.
Pull up a seat for some baseball history from a man who is baseball history.
I got to the big leagues with that sore knee, and it was difficult.
Larry Miggins of Houston recently turned 97 and is one of America's oldest living major leaguers.
Columbus, Ohio.
His secret to a long and fulfilling life? We'll get to that. But first, you should know Larry Miggins retired from playing way back in 1954.
It's a home run.
An outfielder, Larry's big league career was limited to 43 games, mostly in 1952 with the St. Louis Cardinals.
I had an operation on it.
Should have been more, but he hurt his knee in 1948.
I never was the same after that knee.
Throughout his home, there's balls, plaques, and hats.
Oh, I haven't got that much.
Most of Larry's career was spent in the minors. It's how he ended up in Houston, arriving here in 1949 to play for the Buffs, a Cardinals farm team.
I'm most proud of the fact that I came to Houston and stayed here. I'm from New York City, from the Bronx.
It's there he dreamed of becoming a ball player, while a classmate fantasized about being an announcer.
He was 2 years younger.
The legendary Vin Scully once told graduates of Pepperdine University what it was like to one day miraculously call a Larry Miggins home run.
Was the most emotional moment outside of the birth of my children, I think, in my entire life.
I love to hear him talk about baseball.
Vin is now gone, as well as all but one of Larry's Cardinal teammates, including infielder Solly Hemus
And he could do anything.
and Hall of Famer Stan Musial.
He's in a class by himself.
But Larry's greatest teammate, Kathleen, a nice Irish Catholic girl sitting in the room with us, married 67 years, and they've had 12 children.
That's the secret.
Yes, finding the right wife, Larry believes, leads to a long and fulfilling life.
It's to marry the right woman.
That and his strong faith. When Larry once brought Musial with him to a Houston church, the priest had no idea who Stan the man was. We'll let Kathleen tell the rest of the story.
And so Larry walked in and he says, "Father, this is Stan Musial." "Oh, this man's musical. How nice. What do you play?" He says, "I play left field for the Cardinals." "Oh, you must be here from Rome then. Well, welcome to Houston." True story.
And there's some real baseball history from not one, but two baseball historians. And Larry earned 2 college degrees during his playing career. Then, after retiring, went into probation and corrections. In November, it will be 68 years of marriage for those two.
Great guy, great guy.
You guys may have noticed that they showed the plaque that we gave him several years ago for his outstanding dedication to baseball. They panned it across.
Feel the real?
Yeah, that's the one.
You're that, you're the.
2022.
Last year.
Last year?
Yeah.
Yeah, this time last year.
All right. So, moving on, we all will miss Larry. I know I will. I just can't believe he's gone.
And thank you, Matt Ramsey, where he is, for sending us that.
Yeah.
Appreciate it.
No, Matt.
Okay, last month we had a great meeting with Zach Ford. the Dusty Baker chapter. He talked about his new book called Up. Talking about the feelings and emotions of becoming a major leaguer. It was a great presentation. Also, Jimmy's not here. Jimmy gave a great presentation over Ernie Harwell's book. I believe somebody has a copy of it, right? This book right here. David gave a great review over Ernie Harwell. Never read. So, okay, very quickly, because we have so much to get to. It was a couple of weeks ago. We had the SABR Regional Chapter Leaders Meeting, and it basically turned into the CEO Scott Bush show, where he was telling us everything that was changing with SABR. The biggest thing, of course, would be, and Bob, correct me if I'm wrong, the membership fees were increasing. But he also said this, make sure if membership is coming up for all of you this year, please make sure you renew, because current members, their dues will be frozen for 4 years through 2027. But any new members who join will be subject to the new rates as of January 1st. So if you're in this room and you're not a SABR member yet, why don't you join tonight? Okay, so get that SABR increase. That was the big thing. We also here in the chapter, we had a chapter leaders meeting just a few weeks ago. We are establishing chapter bylaws for the first time. We're kind of going through that, putting this stuff together, and we'll have some more information on it in the next couple of months. Okay, and officer elections will be happening in 2024. So if you want to play a significant role in this chapter, maybe be a chapter officer, please let us know. We'll let you know when that election is going to be. The election will be open to the entire membership. Okay. Upcoming in January of next year, we have the winter meeting with the Roger Hornsby chapter. I looked online today. They don't have their lineup set and ready to go yet, but it will be. They will announce the lineup right after Christmas. They always have a lot of great speakers at the Texas State at the winter meeting at the Bill Gilbert annual winter meeting. They had some great presenters last year. They had Nancy Finley. They had a Bailey, who was a young girl who presented here. They have a lot of good presentations. In the past, they've had Tony Kemp. I can't wait to see what's on store. They've had Tal. That's right, Tal. I'm so sorry, Tal.
Deacon Jones.
Yeah, Deacon Jones. Yeah. So don't miss out if you want to take the trip out with some of us out to Texas State, January 6th. Jay Barrell, the Vice President of Business Strategy and Analytics, will be our presenter next month. And I have a lot of questions for Jay that I've been storing up. Have any of y'all heard recently as to one of the reasons maybe the Astros are not spending money this offseason? So it has something to do with the TV deal that fell through. The Astros lost a lot of revenue because of that. And I just have a couple of questions for Jay as to, is this going to be a permanent thing? Does anybody want to talk about that? Is it really that much of a big deal for losing that much revenue? You know, from the failed TV deal or whatever it is. What I read basically, the Astros are at a loss for revenue with their TV media money. Is that right?
Yes. Refreshes them.
It basically was free money. They were being paid by the regional network. No matter how good or bad the team was, they were going to get paid so much. Now, the future with running and owning your own network, in theory, it sounds like you've got more freedom to think more, but the reality is you got to work a lot harder for it, and you better keep the teams good, because if you fall off, people don't subscribe. Yeah. And so consequently, the free money's gone. So that's the biggest concern. And the access, of course, for the fans, because if we end up going to a lot of games streaming, that's going to be a separate charge for fans. And right now it's a hidden charge. If you got DirecTV or if you've got a satellite deal, not satellite, a cable deal, it's in there that you're paying for it. But it's not a separate charge that all of a sudden, here comes my bill, I've gotta, pay the, whatever my streaming service is, it's the streaming service working for me to carry it, if it's only gonna be baseball or basketball. That's the biggest question.
What is the hidden charge rate?
Well, it's on your bill. You have DirecTV. When you look at, it says you're paying X number of dollars for sports.
Sports back.
Sports net.
Yeah, but you're also getting a lot more, so that's why it's kind of a hidden charge. You're also getting all the rest of the programming.
But
If it becomes streaming, that charge is gonna be pretty obvious. That's all you're buying. You're getting Astros and then Rockets together. And who knows if there's any other programming on that channel? You don't know.
and kind of up what Greg was saying, how much do people think you pay for ESPN cable right now by itself? Anybody have an idea? Per month, $6. Almost $10, almost, I think it's $9.78 or something like that right now. Regional sports.
Plus, it's almost 11.
Yes, too.
It might be 10 or 11 now.
Yeah.
You might be getting channel CBS.
Everybody's renegotiating what they're doing with this stuff. And it's not, like Greg was saying, it's not a good linear model. Whole thing that's happening right now in San Diego, which they're stripping the ball from apart. The reason why Soda got traded was because they shut down the network in last June. And so they had no rights coming in. And Major League Baseball is guaranteeing them only, I think, 30% of what their previous rate was. So, all of a sudden, that's the reason Juan Soto goes for a bag of balls and 50 prospects.
Now, the big problem is the Astros have no problem for next year because even though they own the network, they already have the contracts in place with the carriers, DirecTV and Xfinity and all that. But those contracts expire. And just like the contract that you're dealing with Channel 11, they expire and they have to negotiate new ones. And I remember when, Phil knows this too, when Fox left and the Astros tried their own network the first time, it was hard to get any cable systems. That people couldn't get it.
And the reason why was because Fox was charging them roughly $5.25, $5.50 per household for it. And when they pulled out, the Astros network came in and wanted $5 or $6 for it. And what happens is you start at $2 and then negotiate your way up over the course of various renewals. They want to start here and negotiate up as opposed to starting here and negotiating to where they were.
I mean, I went a whole year without any Astros because I had DirecTV and they were not on DirecTV.
Yeah.
And I went a whole year and didn't watch any of them.
Yeah.
And that could be in the future. You never know. It's just, you don't know. But as Phil makes the point, our friends up north, they are concerned because their deal with Valley is far worse. They don't own their own network. They don't know what happens after Valley is gone.
You're talking about the Rangers.
The Rangers, our friends up north.
Right, okay.
And so, they've spent a lot of money. But how much more they can spend, there's some concerns by their fans.
Yeah, so it's very interesting times right now. There are some teams adopting the direct-to-consumer model, like the Cubs, who recently started theirs, I believe, in August this year. I know other teams in different sports have done the same thing. I think the Lakers did.
The Lakers have their own network. There's 6 teams which are in baseball, which are pretty safe.
Right.
The Yankees, Toronto, the Dodgers, the Mets, and that you look at. But there's 6 of them that are the halves, and everybody else is in the framework of half-nots. If you guys want to know about more of that, I can pull that together for you guys.
Well,
that's good.
they had, I think it's also easy to remember too, the Yankees, when they started the Yankee network.
Yes.
They won a number of years and then they sold half of it to Fox because they wanted the extra revenue, the outside guaranteed revenue.
Yeah, they're looking for, but the thing is, what they want is a guaranteed paycheck, and now the teams are having to write checks as opposed to cashing checks. That's a big difference, and they're not used to that yet.
So are we looking for the end of $700 million baseball contracts, or are we looking for $50 bidders?
The answer is yes.
Yeah.
Well, this is a great conversation. I think we can have Monday, January the 15th with Jay Barrow. Okay, Mr. Business Strategy. Okay, for the Astros. This is why I'm excited that he's going to come and talk. Astros Fan Fest is Saturday, January the 20th. Last thing I saw about having a booth was an email that I saw from between Bob and Carolyn.
Yep.
Did she ever respond to you?
No, criminal.
Okay, all right.
She don't respond till January.
Okay, I'm just gonna go have to go down there.
We need a list of people who want to participate, because I have to send in a list 10 days in advance. So you all have to go through the labor or the voucher fees.
Okay,
And it's worked out really well in the past where you can go into the employee entrance. So I need to know, even tonight, how many people are willing to work. Usually you work 2-hour shifts, goes from 11 to 3.
our booth,
Our booth.
our Saber booth
Our
at
Saber booth.
Minute Maid.
Yeah.
On
We have a lot of
Saturday,
fun.
January
Did
20th.
you prepare a sign up for?
No,
I can make it January 20th.
now you can't. Okay.
Yeah, but my other event, January 27th.
Okay.
So I'd be happy to sign up.
All right, let's do it. Bill, come have your hand. What is that? They're gonna raise their hand.
All right, so,
That's gonna raise their hand. If they think at this point, they can.
so at this point, if you think you're interested in working at the Saber booth during Fan Fest for a 2-hour window on January 20th, raise your hand. You know, you just talking to people about Saber, handing out baseball cards to kids. You know, it's really a fun time. Just talking to people.
And there are players there.
Yeah, there are players. My wife likes to go because it's a big garage sale half the time. You know, so there's a lot of great stuff. We usually get our year supply of bobbleheads at Fan Fest.
Yeah, all the giveaway is put on sale.
So, please, please volunteer. We're only asking for 2 hours.
Making good.
Yeah, that is Saturday, January 20th from 11 a.m. to 4 p.m.
Get me, Bob? No, I got
2-hour shifts.
I got you now.
All right. February 3rd is Saber Day in America. And we're going to be working on what we're going to do for Saber Day. Right, Mike? Saber Day in America. Okay. All right.
When is it?
I have February 3rd. That's what I have. Okay.
Patrick was nominated. Did we nominate him?
Yeah, I'm going to talk to Patrick after the meeting. Yeah, I've already talked to Patrick. Yeah. So congrats, Patrick. So,
He was the only one who didn't show up.
exactly. And plus, that's all. There are a couple of things. How many of you, by a show of hands, would be willing to go to a Corpus Christi Hooks game next summer as a champion? Okay, that's about 20-25 people. Okay. So their schedule, May 21st to 26th, June 4th through the 9th, 18th through the 23rd, July 19th to the 21st, July 30th to August 4th, August 27th to September 1st. You know, that's their home schedule. So maybe as a chapter, we can work something out where we all go down and watch the Hooks for a weekend. Okay, we can work that out. There you go.
I tried to set this up a few years ago, but we have a different group of people now. And we were gonna rent a bus.
That sounds like something special events coordinator.
Yeah. So, yeah, and ride there and ride back at the bar and enjoy everything. It takes a tour they give. So I didn't know if anybody, we would get a hands raised.
Had about 20 people, 25 people.
That's
Just
right.
ran
They
around.
want to go to the game, but they want to pay to ride them, so go back and all go together.
Well, let's start working out the numbers and maybe talk in January with some numbers.
Bob will ride the bus.
I'll ride the bus. Yes. Or if you just want to drive down and just hang out with us for a day and then hang out with your family for the rest of the time. So it's beautiful. Whataburger Village, everything.
Do we have to go by the red hookers though?
Huh?
Do we have to say we're a bus of hookers?
No.
If we go on Thursdays, we can be honey this.
I'll even wear my honey biscuit Whataburger jersey. Okay. All right.
The hands from Bob's Fan Fest.
Yeah, they got it. All right. So without further ado, let's welcome back an old friend, Greg Lucas. Remember our chapter? Oh, wait, I'm sorry. Herb. Thank you, Herb. Thank you. I'm sorry, Greg.
Wrong, Greg Lucas.
I told y'all last month we're voting for the Hall of Fame tonight. Okay, we're beating the Hall of Fame voters. So, Herb, real fast, and then we'll get to Greg.
We're also gonna meet the Roger Hornsby chapter.
And we're also gonna meet the Roger Hornsby chapter who does this in January.
So we're gonna follow the same rules that the baseball writers do. Can vote up to 10 players. There's still moves. And if you can do this before around between 8 and 8:15, have turned over to me, I can calculate them, so we have the results before we leave tonight. So I'm gonna pass out the ballots. I think they've got plenty of them here. So
How many of you think Billy's gonna get in this year?
what?
How many of you think Wagner's gonna get in this year?
Probably get 5 minutes.
No, I think this is 9. You're 9.
Yeah. Oh, for sure.
All right, so take a few minutes,
Right.
and in the meantime, now we can get to Greg, right, Eric?
Yes.
All right, Greg, you ready?
Yeah.
Okay, so again, without further ado, a former chapter member for a long time, or chapter member before I was. I think you were.
Oh, I was back in the 8 people hanging around Galleria. Galleria. That was the bit when, yeah.
I thought we had dark hair when I there.
It's like I did too, yeah.
Well, we'd like to welcome Greg Lucas back, and he's gonna tell us some stories about some Astros legends.
That's part of it.
He's gonna revisit a new edition of his book. Greg Lucas, everybody.
Thank you.
Greg Lucas.
Now I came up with thank you. It's a presentation you'll have lots of giveaways. These are the first 3 books that I have written. After my broadcasting career retirement, Houston to Cooperstown, that was the Vigil Bagwell years. First one I ever wrote was Baseball, It's More Than Just a Game. And the most recent one was Astro Legend, but this one is going to be updated. I'll tell you the story about why this one's going to be updated. This one came out in 2018, and it was after the Astros, of course, had won the World Series. Well, the publisher of this book is located, in fact, these 2 books, the publisher is located in Indianapolis, Indiana. It's called Blue River Press, Cardinal Publishing, and they are publishers as well as distributors. They distribute books all over the country to bookstores from a large warehouse they've got on the center part of Indianapolis. In any event, I got a call from them, the head guy, the publisher, sometime near the end of the season. And he asked me if I would be interested in doing an update to this book. Now, the reason was, of course, the Astros were very good again this year, and they had been for several years since 2017. And also because they had redistributed this book in Houston during last summer, and it was selling off the shelves, because we had quite a resurgence, and people were going into Barnes and Noble, and they were seeing this book, and they just brought it back, even though it was originally in 2018. So I agreed to do it. And it's been interesting. And I'll tell you, I got to get my little notes I have in here. Because the book has probably 30 to 40% new material. Now, some legends are legends. I mean, they're still here, the ones that were in this book. But the new book has about 30 to 40% more legends or more information. Some of it is updates, because obviously the All-Star, the no-hitters, the Astros have pitched, that's changed since 2017. The whole situation with the punishment for the 2017 controversy, that needed to have a chapter. And I also had to do an update on the status of the Astrodome. Thanks to Mike Acosta, I got filled in with a lot more that I put in. I also did a piece on Ken Caminiti after the book that was written about him. I titled my 2 or 3 pages, The Sad Story of Ken Caminiti. That's in there because he was one, of course, the Astro great players of the past. And I also did the manager's list is updated. I waited until Joe Espada was named manager before I sent the final part of my writing into the publisher. And someone made a good point about that towel. What if Billy Wagner goes in the Hall of Fame? You got room to stick that in? It's not going to be published till come out till April, and the naming of the Hall of Fame is going to come well before that. So yes, if he's named, I will have added something to the book about that to keep it as totally updated as possible. It is only a coincidence that my publisher is from Indiana, even though I am an Indiana native. I had known him. I was determined when I started writing books, I was only going to write a book if I could have a real publisher, and I wasn't paying for it. In other words, there wasn't going to be any of these self-published items. My first book was published by a local man who was just getting into the business. He was out in the Richmond-Rosenberg area. He had been an insurance man, and he decided he was going to be a publisher. Well, he got the book published. He did a lot of things. He had big banners made. He had, which I've got hanging on the wall of my house. It's got my face with this book right next to it. He did bookmarks and all sorts of stuff. And of course, he didn't have it ready for our meeting in 2014 when we had the SABR meeting. And I only could sit in the book selling room and say, oh, here's what it looks like, but we can't sell it to you yet because we don't have it. And that activity probably helped him go out of business. He doesn't publish books anymore. It was actually my favorite book because this was basically not just Astros. This was basically a lot of items that I collected during my time working for Fox, HSE, Prime, and all those networks that I worked with before. Anecdotes of baseball history and so on and so forth. But I got into this business as a basketball and baseball or basketball and football announcer at Butler University. And I did that during my 3 years, 3 of the years I was there. And I was one of the first broadcasters to full-time every game for those two sports. And that was something I never forgot. And really got my career started. After graduation in the Army, I was a sportscaster for AFCAN, by the way. So I'm an Army veteran, but I always a little embarrassed when we have all the celebrations for the vets because doing sportscasts on TV and it's not exactly putting in Vietnam. I started out in Terre Haute professionally, then Honolulu, which is a strange shift. But going from Honolulu to Peoria is even stranger. Finally to Buffalo, and then finally in Texas in 1980, starting in San Antonio, where I started working some Spur games, was a sports director of WAI Radio. In late 1982, I came here to Houston to become the play-by-play voice for a brand new cable network that was starting called HSE and Channel 20, which was carrying the Rockets. Bill Worrell had done them up to that point, and they were doing about 25 games a year. And he had taken a job with Channel 39. What was the name of the show? He was a host of a daily show, and so he was not able to be the Rockets guy anymore because he had these responsibilities. He did come over to HSE as a sports director, where he did the daily sportscast, and he did some college sports. But I did the Rockets for 3 years, and I was happy to be here when they had their worst year ever up to that, 14 wins. And but they drafted Ralph Sampson in the next year, Hakeem Olajuwon. After 3 years of that, I had my dream because in that third year, I got to actually do an Astro game. I had to fill in for a guy named Jim Durham, who was notably known in Chicago as the voice of the Bulls, but he also lived in Houston, and he got the job with HSE as the first lead play-by-play guy on Astros baseball, which was only the home games, and it was only on HSE. About 50 games a year was all they did in those days. Well, he had a conflict. Pardon?
What years?
That would have been 82, 83, summer of 83. And so Jim had to miss a game, and I was just kind of coming back from a road game for the Rockets, and I worked the Astro game with Dwayne Statz. Actually, I worked an Astro game before Bill Brown ever worked an Astro game. I worked an Astro game before Milo. I worked one before, all sorts of people, but there's only one. But I never forgot it because Nolan was pitching, and it was against the Reds, which had been my boyhood team. So I had a little background on that. But I'd always wanted to do baseball, and I got a chance the next year filling in on Rangers games for Merle Harmon, who had a big sports business on the side. And sometimes he had to go to Cleveland or Milwaukee or whatever, and he had to miss some games. So I was sent up to Arlington and did Rangers games. And then ultimately that worked into a regular gig. Merle retired, and I did all the Ranger games on cable for 6 years. And 5 of those years, Nolan Ryan was there. And so that was quite interesting because working as part of the that broadcast team in Texas, it was obvious that Nolan, his signing, while it was upsetting for people in Houston, the whole atmosphere in Arlington was so different. Everyone was a stepchild of the Cowboys, of course, in those days, and they still are to a great extent, but not like they were then. And then it was the Cowboys, and then the other guys played somewhere. You know, Dallas people never ever went to Arlington, and Arlington was mostly Fort Worth and Arlington. That's who went to support the Rangers, and it still is to a certain extent. That's still their base. But Nolan's coming energized the whole place. It was amazing. They had a real pitcher, a famous Texas pitcher. And his first year there, he was really good. He won 16 games. But of the 5 years he was there, he wasn't really that good for long enough stints. He had injuries and he missed a lot of time. And sadly, I was the guy doing the play-by-play when his arm finally caved out.
To November.
Yeah, well, but I wasn't there for either one of them because one was because HSE had an Astro game on that night, and we used to share the one channel, both teams, because we had about 50 games of each. But the tables were turned to a certain extent because when Darryl Kyle pitched his no-hitter, they weren't on here because the Astros or the Rangers were on. So we had some bad luck a couple of times. I was there when he threw number 7, but we weren't doing it on television. Only the people were guys in Toronto.
That's with the Vin Scully punch.
We were there for that. We were there for Bo Jackson being awful for about 8 or 9 at-bats in a row, striking out Nolan Owen, and then he hit one about 500 feet to left center field. Never forgot either one. We were there for the line drive that Bo hit off of Nolan and bloodied his face. We were there for, actually we're there for George Brett's final game of the year. That was in 1993. And I'll never forget the Manny Lee alligator defense and George came up the last time. So much respect for Brett. He basically hit a only slightly better than routine ground ball to the right side. And Manny Lee goes over after it with his glove like this. He had alligator arms, so let it get into right field for a base hit. Never forgot that. But we were also in Seattle. We did a few road games because there used to be a rule where you could have cable could televise Wednesday night, but no over-the-air channel could because you couldn't compete with ESPN's national game. It was an over-the-air game. So we would go on the road for some Wednesdays, and it just so happened that we were in Seattle when Nolan Ryan went to the mound the last time. And it was sad because first of all, he had no control. He walked the first 4 guys he faced. He gave up a grand slam home run. And the 5th batter he faced, he couldn't finish the bat. His elbow had finally snapped. Now, as Tal knows, during the time Nolan was with the Astros, he was on a short leash, and they started putting a pitch count on him because they knew that his elbow was not. Nolan didn't like that short leash pitch count stuff, but they didn't do that with him in the Rangers, but because that's the way he wanted it. But in '93, that's when it happened, and I never forgot that. And of course, I also was on the call when Canseco took it off his head in Cleveland for a home run. That was another one of those rare road games that we had. Never forgot that one either. But in '95 or after '94, and Kenley Rogers' perfect game, which I got to call, which was my game highlight, the Rangers went a different direction. They got new ownership, and they changed everybody. Norm Hitzkiss and I have been partners. We weren't partners anymore. They decided they were going to use the same crew on over-the-air TV as they were on cable, and so I'd never left Houston, by the way, so that was a good thing. I never had to move. I was living in hotels during the summer. And I came back here, and no sooner did I come back here that there was a spot for me with the Astros, because Bill Worrell used to do the analysts on the HSE games. But he was also the Rockets announcer. And as it turns out, 95 was the year, one of the years the Rockets went all the way. And they were doing games till June. So doing up to that time, I was working with Brownie and Milo. Milo was coming for the middle innings on television. So I got to do baseball right away when I came back. The first few games we did were with players nobody ever heard of, because that was this coming off the strike. And 95, we started out with, who are these guys? And we were televising the games. And then opened the season, as I recall, in San Diego. But that got me in with the Astros. I started doing pregame, postgame, interviews, features, all sorts of things. And then at some point, they started sending me on the road as the third person. I was the field level commentator. I wasn't considered a reporter, and I wasn't necessarily a roam around the stands person. Did a little bit of that, but
Was Julian Morales?
I was, well, she sort of replaced both me and Patty Smith, because Patty at home games did the run around the stand stuff. She didn't travel. And I traveled, and I wouldn't do the run around the stand stuff unless it was the first time to a new city, which happened when we first started playing American League teams. We go out and look at that, you know, because I was on the roof. I was in the roof at Fenway Park. I was in the you know, in the outside the wall, out in the, with the fans, out catching home runs at Wrigley Field and all that. But ultimately, once we'd done that once or twice, we didn't do that anymore. And I had a great seat right on field level and commented on the game. One of my little things I used to do was, when the guys in the booth on the trivia question got it right, I'd ring a bell. Just a gimmick. Ring a bell. Well, I did that, and then all of a sudden, players want to steal my bell. And in one time in Los Angeles, I'm sitting out getting ready to do the open on the field, and the guy goes up to the cameraman, my players. Where's his bag? And I'm sitting there helpless. I can't do anything. He gets in, he steals my bell. And so I didn't have a bell. That's fourth inning. Someone brought the bell back. Somebody had put it in a vise. It was squished for that. And actually, I know who did it, but he denied that he did it. It was one of the pitchers, one of the more irascible pitchers that used to pitch for the Phillies. And you know what I'm talking.
Who was that?
One of our more irascible pitchers that used to pitch for the Phillies. Who came over here after he was.
Which one?
No.
Walford. Did you know?
Larry Anderson. Oh, no, wasn't Larry Anderson? Oh, no, this is past that. This is in the 2008 or something, 2007. He's a singer. He sings country. You got it. Brett Myers. Myers was the one who did it, because he's the one who didn't like me ring it. I don't know what. I never rang it when a pitcher was getting ready to pitch or anything. I'd sneak it in after they got the trivia question right. But I still have that squat bell. Anyway, let me talk a little bit more about the updated book, because this book, and let me go through here first, because I have I'm going to give these away. I'm going to give them away to the first person that can answer a trivia question. This new book has this one had 103 chapters, and that was based on the most, at that time, the most games the team had won in a regular season. The new book will have 217 chapters, and that's based on the most games the team ever won in a regular season and postseason.
I mean, Chip.
217. Did I say 200? No, 117.
All right.
117. I go back and do more pages. Anyway, 117. So they've won that many last year. The question is, because they won all the way to the World Series, they won the World Series, and they won 106 during the regular season. So that was 117. But they won 117 one other year. First person that knows what other time they did it wins their choice of these three books.
2017,
Nope, not 2017.
2001.
Nope.
1998.
No, it's more recent than that.
2019.
19. Remember, they won 107 and then won 10 because they lost the seventh game of the World Series. So that's it. Which of these three would you like to have?
Houston to Cooperstown.
Good choice. It will not be updated.
I do.
All right. In addition to the original entries in this book, some have been dropped. Well, two players, not in the original, or I should say that, for instance, the total number of no-hitters has to be corrected. Two players, and not just the original J.R. Tolles, have now driven in 8 runs in a game. And a second World Series MVP has joined the original George Springer since that time. And Altuve's not only the only guy to win a batting title, too. So that's book giveaway number 2. The first person I recognize with the answer to the other 8 RBI man besides Tolles.
Great.
Who?
Great.
Nope. I thought.
Is he an Astro?
Yeah, no, he's an Astro. There's 2 Astros that have driven 8 in one game. Tolles was the first. You know that one too?
Come on, Philby. That's right. He's going to give me the.
Okay. You know the answer.
Yuli Gurriel.
Yuli Gurriel, who of course is the only other guy besides Altuve to win a batting title for the Astros too. Who are you going to give it to? Which one do you want?
Who wants it? I'll take the white one.
Baseball's more than a game.
Latest game.
Now, this new book also has a long segment on the 2017 scandal. And I understand, in fact, I was informed today that it was a member here that was on the feature, that was on PBS, that actually had the recordings of every at-bat at Minute Maid Park during the 2017 season. And he lists over 8,000 pitches and 100 and something that had banging. And he knew exactly when, and this was in this PBS feature. It's Frontline, I think it is.
Yeah.
If you haven't seen it, try to figure out to watch it because it's fair. It's not making the Astros as bad guys, and it's pointing out just as a matter of fact, it quiets a lot of the critics because one thing that was discovered, and that's in the book, say in September, the White Sox got suspicious. And they showed the video of the meeting at the mound and all that stuff. And after that point, they changed their signs. And so the rest of the game, there was no banging. And never was there another bang heard in any home game the rest of the year. That's the only place they did it, including postseason. So the Dodgers can complain all they want. There wasn't any banging going on in the World Series. The
Yankees.
there wasn't anything. Regular season, some teams may have had some complaints. But I also showed in this feature that pitcher for, was it Toronto, that said his career was ruined by it.
Yeah.
Okay. Take a look at the pitches that they were hitting. He couldn't pitch. They didn't need signs. His pitches were meatballs. And so that's why he never pitched again. If he could have pitched, he would have pitched again. He couldn't pitch again. But that was in the feature, and that's some of the stuff I brought up. Another thing that was as requested by my publisher was a little more on the Astrodome, because in 2017 I left him with the concept that it's not dead. Their plans and all this so forth, but nothing's moving forward. And I wasn't planning on changing that because that's basically where we stand now. But I did call Mike Acosta, and I know he's told you this when he's spoken here, and got some of the details. And controversy over what they can do on that land because it's county land and the county has strong control of it, which prevents the Texans from even doing things and the rodeo from doing things. If the county isn't directly involved, and therefore an outside entity who's going to bring in a bunch of money and say, we're going to turn the Astrodome into this, can't do it under the current county situation. And so it's not dead, but even the idea of putting in parking garage underneath, which sounded like that would make sense, and then you'd still have the whole rest of. They can't necessarily do that, but that's not because of the county necessarily. It's because of the state landmarks preservation status. It would require changing something on the exterior, which they can't do under that guideline. So it's a mess. We just keep our fingers crossed, but that has been added to the chapter on the Astrodome. All the updates are there. The background of the new manager, background of what has been going on, some of the great games. If you know, we've added. When I originally started this book, I was going to try to do things in some sort of order, but that's impossible because you can nitpick over this or that. Was that more important than this or that? So it's just that there are 117 items in here, and you know, the home run that essentially won the World Series against the Phillies in the 8th inning is in that whole game. Several other whole games. I've got the great famous Ranger wipeout in September of last year. The 39 runs, 16 home runs. That how did that team beat the Astros in the World Series? I never know.
Wrong.
Yeah, and also the anomalies that have happened twice now to the Astros, not being able to win a home game in a 4-game series. Happened in the World Series, happened last year in the ALCS.
Twice in Major League History.
Yeah, and it's the Astros.
Okay.
And that's in there. There are some other items that, well, as I say, the publisher said you got to change minimum of 30%. That's what the revision has to have in it, and we did that by adding the other things. It will not be out until, I don't know what it's even going to be called. It's going to get a new cover. And I suggested well, this one has Altuve and Springer, which is okay. He was still here, but I suggested that you know, it's going to be all the Astro legends. You can put Biggio and Bagwell, and you can put Altuve, and you can put some of the new guys. But it's up to them. They'll decide. Like this one had the Astrodome on the cover. And so that's what this will be. It will be coming out in April, and I don't have any more details except that when it does come out, I will be sure to let you know. I want to finish on just basically a comparison between working Astros and Rangers, because only Vince Cotroneo and myself and Dave Raymond have done it. At the beginning, it was funny. The Astros developed first, obviously, but the Rangers didn't have some terrible teams when I was there. They had Canseco, they got him for Sierra, and they had Pudge Rodriguez coming up, and they had a third baseman that's kind of faded from knowledge now, but his name was Dean Palmer, and he was quite a power hitter. He replaced Steve Buechele, who works on some of their telecasts now. They had Julio Franco, who was the best at psyching out pitchers of any hitter I ever saw. He would never swing at the first pitch. Never, ever swing at the first pitch. First pitch, they'll throw in a strike. It's always going to be strike one. Never swing at it. Except occasionally. And he was the best at that. And he was also one of these guys who curveballs coming in there. Oh, he missed that by 5 feet. Throw him another one. Because he's going to miss it. So he figures, I'm going to miss it bad. I'm going to get that pitcher confident. And then he's going to throw me another one. And that's exactly, he was the best then. You know, he won a batting title with Texas one this year.
And how old was he when he retired?
Well, that was a good question, because I asked that once when he was with the Braves at the end of his career. I was outside the Braves dugout, and Bobby Cox was sitting there, and I asked, you know, I knew Julio from his Ranger days, and I just kind of chatting with him and how things go and everything. And I looked over at Bobby and said, Bobby, do you know how old he is? Bobby says, as long as he can hit, I don't care. And he could still hit at that advanced age. Yeah, he was, you know, at the end of his career, his range was about like this, but the second base, but he could hit. And Canseco he was one of those, his name was so big and he was so famous, he was a little unapproachable. And this was during the steroid era, and there's no question, as history shows, that there are a number of members of the Rangers, including Canseco, that were using PEDs. But I will say this, they were not making it obvious. If you go in the clubhouse, if they were doing anything, it was back in the back bathrooms, because they weren't, there was nothing obvious about the way they were acting. So we just took it, we don't know what Bobby Valentine knew or what the ownership knew. The ownership for most of that time was George Bush. And he was actually the front man. He wasn't the guy that had all the money. He was the front man, and he had some money in it, but what was it, Rainwater and Rogers or Richard? There's a guy named Rusty Rainwater, I think, is one of the owners. But you never saw him. Nobody knew what he looked like. We all knew what George looked like. He sat right down there next to the dugout with his wife, and but he was the front man. And I never forgot the time that in 1989 we did something very screwy with the announcers. We had like 4 announcers, and we were on a rotation. The announcers included myself, Brad Sham, the voice of the Cowboys, Dave Barnett, who was the voice of the Mavericks, and the 4th one was Jim Sundberg, who was actually doing the over-the-air TV color. Well, one day someone screwed up the schedules. I'm the only one that shows up. So I do the pregame show by myself, and then you got somebody sitting with you. Well, we were playing the Angels. So I got Brett, Ken Brett, the late Ken Brett now. George's brother. He came in with me for 3 innings. And then I had someone else, I can't remember who the second was, but Brett came in for 3. Maybe I did the middle 3 myself, but the last 3, we brought in George Bush. And George was supposed to be a color guy. And well, he kind of took over. And he's saying stuff like, because Nolan was pitching, and that was Nolan was pitching. So he was, Nolan Ryan, he is a God-fearing, clean living man. He's what all people should be. And it's politics stuff before he was ever a politician. And he just did that, Nolan would do everything right. He just, and he's basically taken over. I just let him go. But I have a tape of that. And when he was governor, I actually I visited him, because in 1999, we visited him in the governor's office, because Jeff McElroy was one of the producers at HSE or Fox or whatever we were at the time. And I were doing a special on Nolan because he was going into the Hall of Fame. And I went out and interviewed. We went to Arizona and we did Art Howe. He was managing the A's at the time. And we got Joe Garagiola to come in the A's place. And we did something with Joe. And Joe brought his scorebook from the 5th no-hitter when he was doing it for NBC. And he showed me. And I kidded him. I said, wow, so you keep all your old scorebooks too? And he said, yeah, I do. Well, I got 2 of them in that bag right there, the 93 and 94, because I wanted to look up the details on Nolan's last game and also the perfect game. And so I keep all of mine, but he kept all of his, and he had that, and he showed that on the screen. And we did some stuff with his catchers caught him, and there were 7 of them, winding no hitters, winding it all out. It was tough. His high school coach, everyone was in this thing. And but that was when we did an interview with George at the governor's mansion. And by the way, at the governor's mansion at that time, in his office, back wall was all baseballs, signed baseballs. That was George W. Bush's governor's office. They were all signed baseballs. We did an interview with him and he said the same stuff. Well, he was, and so I never forgot that, but that was with the Rangers. And then, so we had fun. And my partner was a guy named Norm Hitzkes. I don't know how many people really know Norm. Phil does, but I don't know how many people really know Norm. He's a legend up in the Dallas-Fort Worth area on radio. He's had talk shows for years. He's doing a podcast now. He's retired from daily radio.
Right here.
Yeah. And he was a gambler, to say the least. He had a clipboard he brought into the booth every game. He leaves the booth. Just go to the last page. All of his bets. And I was so amazed because he had bookies and all sorts. I was so amazed that, because he did stuff with the NBA too. The NBA or Major League Baseball or somebody didn't know some of that stuff, and he got away with it. But he had all of his bets there, and because he did the ponies too. He goes out of state and the casinos, and he's not broke. So I guess he's gone through 3 wives, but not broke. But Norm was interesting because he would come up with unusual directions. He wasn't a former player, wasn't a former manager, wasn't a former coach, but he did his homework and he came up with interesting sidelights. I'll never forget on Kenny Rogers' perfect game, because he did this with every time Nolan Ryan pitched. Nolan would get off to a good start and say, this is looking pretty interesting, and we know what he's thinking. He did it every time Nolan pitched. But he did it with Kenny too, because Kenny was just getting him down. 27 up, 27 down. And not even a tough play. Semi-diving catch in center field in the 9th inning, but it wasn't that hard for Rusty Greer. But Norm did that. And of course, then Norm took credit for seeing it coming way back in the first inning, second or third inning. The highlight of that game was Kenny struck out 3 of them were Bo Jackson. Bo Jackson was another story. I still contend he was the greatest all-around skill type. Baseball's a skill. Football's not as much of a skill, but it's a physical game. I think he is the greatest ever because that played 2 sports. Because we know how good he was, an all-star in baseball. Hit with power. He was going to be an all-star in the NFL if he hadn't had the hip injury. And but Nolan had his number at the beginning. Nolan just, he struck him out like 8 or 9 times in a row. It wasn't even close. Until one day when Bo caught up with one, and I'd swear he hit it 500 feet in the center field of Arlington Stadium. It was the longest ball I saw hit there. Longest ball I ever saw hit in the other park was Canseco hitting one off the back wall of the bullpen. But those are memories you had. And then the Astros, of course, their great success. But my career ended after 2012 when they had their worst year ever. That's when the ownership changed. That's when the network changed. And Deshays left for Chicago. I left because I had no job anymore. And Patty Smith, of course, was gone because they weren't in the network. And so there were a few changes that came after that, but it wasn't hard for me, frankly, because the team was so bad. We'd had those 3 years we knew what they were doing. And I gave, it wasn't hard to see between the lines that Drayton was just clearing the deck for the next owner. Now the Dodgers may have this problem. They can't clear their deck. They got $700 million. It's going to be going to a non-player for 10 years. So I guess they better not plan on selling. They may have a little tough time getting a seller. That's all I have. I've kind of rambled here at the end, but I just, some memories came to me. And I did want to point out that this book will be out in its new version. It will have all the latest stuff. I just hope that the team keeps it going, makes it 8 in a row, goes to another World Series, and finds the new replacements that they have to find. And that I have to write yet another update in about 5 years. Thank you.
We have any questions for Greg?
Yeah, go ahead.
White Sox game in 2017 where they changed the signs. And then
Yeah, it was in September here at Minute Maid Park. And one of the reasons it was so obvious that the crowd wasn't as big as normal, because it was a White Sox. They didn't draw anybody. And you can hear it very plainly on the video, bang, bang, bang. And so could the pitcher. And he called his catcher out. And they had a video of this too. And the catcher called it out with a conference. He goes back, they changed the signs. There was no more banging the whole rest of the game. Nor Mr. Adams is his name, right?
Tony Adams.
Tony Adams. He's a member. He just doesn't come to the members, but he's the guy that videoed all of this, and this was in that piece. And he had no record of any home game the rest of the season ever any more banging. And that included the postseason.
He recorded it all.
He recorded all, and then he went back and yeah, okay, you couldn't play all of it, but yeah, he played enough.
the implication, the Astros think they stayed and found out.
Pardon?
It's the implication that the Astros.
Well, no, the implication is the White Sox figured it out, and then so the Astros quit doing it. And as you might get the timing on this, Tal, you might have heard it. The biggest complaint with the Astros, first of all, they had a squealer and fires. But secondly, this was going on, even though it was September and they stopped, they had already been sent the memo for Major League Baseball, don't do any of this sort of stuff. And they had ignored it. And that's why they got called. That's why they were singled out.
Turns out that it was the PM, he didn't share it.
Well, yeah, they may have posted it, they probably posted it on bulletin board somewhere, but nobody thought of reading it. Who reads all those roads aren't supposed to read if they're out there for too? All the things that will get you in trouble.
That was interesting about that, though, the White Sox. Bill Beck was the one that installed the camera in center field in the fifties. Chicago was spy on the voting.
Well, and I mentioned this in the book, there are so many instances of electronic sign stealing and relaying. In fact, the earliest is 1896 with a wire in the third base coach's box that someone in center field could relay to him. And then he could get the word to the hitter. And so and Rogers Hornsby is chapter is named after. Rogers Hornsby was quoted, and I put that in the book too, as he said, any team with a scoreboard in center field is doing something sneaky. And this was back in the 20s and 30s.
And Yogi Berra says, if you ain't cheap, you ain't trying.
Yeah, it's and then the stealing, the legal sign stealing where you're intercepting the signals or signs and relaying, and that nobody questions that. It's just the electronic stuff or the binocular stuff from a place where you shouldn't ordinarily be able to see it. That's where the big thing is, but that's been going on for a long time.
When did the White Sox become known?
Well, it was in September. I have the exact date in the book. I don't remember.
In September of
2017. Yeah.
But it wasn't until 2 years later that my buyers blew the whistle.
Well, no, he blew the whistle before that, but the punishments didn't come down until after the 2019 season. But Major League Baseball had to investigate, and they did, I guess, because the first year that was after the 2019 season is when they got punished for what happened in 2017. And then of course then they hired, because remember, same manager managed in 2019 World Series. It was that after that everything happened, and the Astros then hired Baker. Yeah. So yeah.
Difficult was it to cover professional basketball? It's like it's a very, very fast game. And you got to keep up with all.
Basketball, actually professional sports are easier than college, only because you see the same players. You recognize them on sight. College, you still have to maybe look down at your scorebook to who is 42, whatever. But that couple times down the court, you have that too. That's not that hard. But I do have one story. It's not basketball. It was my longest road trip. I used to do college baseball too, play by play. And I was sometimes, if the college game was on Saturday, I'd skip an Astros game or Rangers game, where it was. And I remember I was in Montreal with the Astros, and I had to get to Lubbock the next day for a college game. And then I had to go from Lubbock to get back with the Astros after that game in Montreal. They were going somewhere else. I think it was East Coast, and I had to go back. In other words, I calculated the miles. It was a lot, and I made all the games. But that was during baseball, and but basketball. The thing. No, they had one. They had, but they were. That was the longest personal road trip I ever had to take, and but that was two sports. Football was always the one that it was the toughest because of you could be pretty far from the field. And that's the sport where you really use a spotter to help you. And we didn't have the budget to carry our own spotters. So that means every time you went to a different place, whether it was UT or A&M, you got a different person. Some are good, some are not. And the ones that are not, you quit relying on. And then you just get it. You got your chart down there, but you basically are starting to use a numerical roster. If they're here, they're giving you the wrong guys too much or too slow. But that's why the big dollar operations have their own spotters, their own stat guys, their own assistants, and they're always there. And it makes everything run very smooth. It's very smooth. No question. Anything else?
Thank you, Greg.
Thank you. Yeah. Oh, thank you.
Welcome back, Greg.
Well, it's great to be here.
Maybe we can convince him to come back again.
Been good.
And some more.
Phoenix guy. Thank you.
He'll be back here in April. I promise. Sorry, I couldn't make it.
All right. Because of time, Gloria has agreed to do her book review next month. It's the holidays. Once you show your book, you just show everybody what the book is. Hey, that looks like a good gift. I'm going to read it before next
You're
month.
looking for a present for a young girl. It's for like 8 to 18 years old. This is amazing. It's called
Yes.
3 Strike Summer. About a little girl that plays baseball in the 1930s better than all the guys in our neighborhood.
So check that out. Who's going to give us that review next month?
I'd just like to say, speaking of books,
That's fiction.
a lot of invested a lot of money to buy the Charles Smith Library. And we have some of his books from that up here tonight that are free for any staff member.
Well, Tal, I have quite a few of those in my office
Yeah.
at U of H. So
We got
yeah,
another
thank
box
you.
of books if you have got a chance to look through them.
Another box of books.
Sal donated, he has to get out right now.
Oh, that's
give
fine.
him a. So I want to apologize. I have to leave. It's good seeing you all. Merry Christmas. And hope to see you at the next one.
All right. Thank you, Cal.
Big time.
Books. You wanted to mark this calendar.
Herb, hey, are there any more ballots that need to be turned in for the Hall of Fame? Herb and Greg, Herb, okay.
I probably could have done it.
Do you have the results, Herb?
That's all I can see.
Well, I mean, you got 2 more ballots.
And there's. I
You need someone first, are there any,
I don't know where he lives.
Were there any ballots online? Anybody online have a ballot? Want to check the chat?
All I gotta say, Bartolo Colon makes it up for about.
There you go. Hey, there you go. Herb, right there. Herb.
Online.
It's calculated. Wagner, Helton, Beltray, Beltran, Bueller, Holiday, Corey Hunter. I guess.
Burley.
Go ahead. Or Burley. My God, I'm so
so
tired.
I beat you to death about
Who?
We beat you to death.
Well, that's fine.
Ferris Bueller.
They should come to the meeting.
Huh?
Should come to the meeting.
Yeah, come to the meeting. Okay, so Wagner, Helton, Beltray, Beltran, Burley,
So let's look at it.
Okay,
Wagner, what are you reading?
it's the chat section. Can you see that, Mike?
No.
Right here. See that?
We're giving it to you.
Okay, Billy Wagner,
Okay.
Todd Helton, Adrian Beltre, Carlos Beltran,
No.
Mark Burley, Matt Holiday, Tori Hunting, Tori Hunter. Tori Hunter. And that's it.
Everybody on Zoom knows it. I was gonna say something about cheating. We had a better road record that year, about 20 games.
Yes, we did.
Average than we did. And all we did was use the system that Beltran brought over from the Yankees.
Yes, we did.
And that's the second reason I would never vote for him for the Hall. Exactly.
So,
Amen.
Herb is computing those. Let's go ahead and do the trivia contest.
All right, tell him you don't let this.
Yeah.
Where they came.
Hey. So, the theme for the trivia contest this month, the title is Elvis, Memphis, and baseball.
Wow.
Okay. I took my wife to Graceland for her birthday after Thanksgiving. And I found some pretty interesting things about Elvis and baseball.
No, it's a single baseball player named Peanut Flower.
I don't even.
See what you do.
This might not be as hard as you think.
Why do I think we need some more?
I have 30 copies.
Wrong teams, you paper on itself. You do well yourself.
Discussion's already around.
There is 16 questions, 25 possible answers. That's that university math.
One of the big fellows original.
I don't know. Oh my God, I put it on a timer, did
I got it turned off the timer. That was me.
Anybody else?
I fixed the timing part of it.
All right.
All right.
January 30.
Elvis was born. Are y'all ready?
All right, you're gonna read them?
Elvis was born in Tupelo, Mississippi, January 8th, 1935. Halfway across the world in San Vito I will destroy this name, Tagliamento, in Italy, on the same exact day, one of baseball's original bonus babies who spent most of his career with the Detroit Tigers was born. Name him.
Who's the lady?
One of baseball. Wrong league. Not leaving, are they? Oh, all these questions. Oh, you can answer those. So, get back to all right, okay.
Yeah.
The key phrase is one of baseball's original bonus babies, I believe. One of baseball's original bonus babies. No, that is Elvis and Mom and Dad.
Down the guitar, I recognize it.
All right, are you ready? Question 2. On January 8th, 1935, Elvis Aaron Presley was born at his parents' 2-room house in East Tupelo, Mississippi. About 35 minutes after his identical twin brother, Jesse Guerin, was stillborn. That's right, Elvis was a twin.
I can say so.
With the Giants signing of Taylor Rogers in December 2023, Taylor and Tyler Rogers twins became the 4th sets of twins to be teammates. Name the other 3. 1 point for each correct answer. The other 3 that were teammates. The other 3 sets of twins that were teammates.
The short stuff.
4. So the Lou brothers are not twins.
Huh?
Blue Brothers weren't twin
The
brothers.
triplets.
They were triplets.
No, they were.
That's brothers.
They were just brothers.
Yeah, they were just.
They had the same baseball player. Remember for that reason.
Question 3.
I know.
There have been 5 major leaguers named Elvis. Name them.
You mean last names?
No, I mean first names. 1 point for each correct answer.
You know, two age brother in the age.
And his favorite snack is what? Peanut butter.
Banana.
Actually, one of the answers in question 3 is also the answer for question 4. Throw you a curveball.
What did you say?
One of the answers for question 3 is also the answer for question 4. Question 4. This current major leaguer was not named after Elvis Presley. He spent most of his career with the Texas Rangers. Greg probably knows it. And the 2023 season with the White Sox. Name this Elvis. Y'all ready for the next question? Go on. Elvis Presley's third cousin.
What would be more obvious?
A relief pitcher from Tupelo, Mississippi, was the New York Mets' first-round pick, 8th overall in the 1993 amateur draft. Name him.
You should know that, Nick. You were the amateur draft.
20 years later, right?
Tony, you look stoned.
Well, you had to like Elvis, like with a.
Carl's worried about that. Look, Carl, right down there.
All right, number 6. Elvis and 9 major league players were born in Tupelo, Mississippi. This former major leaguer born in Tupelo in 1962 was a first-round draft pick of the Cleveland Indians in 1983 and spent parts of 13 seasons in the big league as an outfielder. On November 28th of this year, Brian McTaggart reported that this former major leaguer was hired by the Astros to be their new first base coach. First base coach, brand new Astros first base coach.
Go ahead. That's a good shot. Good guy. Thank you. Awesome.
Number 7. This former Astros slugger did not ever really like his nickname, Fat Elvis. Instead, he preferred a different nickname. 2 points. Name the player and his preferred nickname. Come on, that's a layup.
Yeah, that was the East one.
All right, this was a long question. Sorry. Number 8. The foursome of Jerry Lee Lewis, Elvis Presley, Carl Perkins, and Johnny Cash weren't in proper touring or recording band, but on December 4th, 1956, purely by chance, this incredible collection of performers, dubbed the $1 Million Quartet, got together in the studio and had a jam at Sun Records. Fortunately, a man named Jack Clement had the presence of mind to press record, and this incredible moment was captured forever. The $1 Million Quartet sped through nearly 50 songs, mainly gospel, but also country and rockabilly standards, in over just an hour and a quarter before Elvis bid goodbye. This Astros pitcher, no relation to the king of rock and roll, enters every game to a song sung by one of the members of the quartet. For 3 points, name the pitcher, the song, and the artist who sings the song.
Current pitcher?
This current Astros pitcher enters the game. How many more hits do I gotta get?
Enters the game.
Enters the game. This next question is just for you. The next question, Lou. This former major leaguer played only one season at the big league level for the Phillies. 1945, he played in 90 games where he hit .221. He had 8 doubles, no triples or home runs among his 64 hits. Playing mostly at shortstop, he committed 27 errors. He retired from baseball in 1957 after a career spent mostly in the minors. His brother-in-law was Colonel Tom Parker, Elvis Presley's manager. This player became Presley's personal security manager, a role he would play until 1973. He spent about 11 months of each year on the road with Presley and Colonel Parker. He also appeared in 4 of Presley's films. This was one of the select few to attend Presley's funeral in 1977. Who am I talking about?
Sorry.
See, this is why John Lloyd needs to be here.
Did he only have 1 year because of his 27 errors, because it's 221 batting average? It's 27 errors out of the one for that, I don't know.
I don't know.
Well, in 1945, most of the major league was.
Yeah.
He probably wasn't very good because they came back.
Well, he was a good personal security manager.
I think there's a good book in Dallas collection called 1946.
Number 10. Memphis was the home of one of the 8 founding members of the Negro American League. What was the Memphis team's name? Come on, Herb, you know this. You're from Memphis.
They're not the Martins, I don't see.
No, it's not the Martins.
I've been too easy.
Number 11. Today, Memphis is the home of the AAA Cardinals team. What is the team's name? That you know. I walked right past the stadium.
Yeah, that's the. That's the name of the ballpark.
That's not a question, but Number 12. Born in 1934, one of the most famous players to ever wear a Memphis baseball uniform, did not earn his fame as a ball player. This player pitched for Memphis in 1953 and was primarily known for his wicked curveball. He retired from baseball in 1960 and went on to become one of the most famous, one of the most successful country musicians of all time. Name him.
Patsy Cline.
Patsy Cline. So you got that one, Matt? You got that? Oh, yeah. All right. Good. In the hole. In the hole.
A lot of people knew that about her.
Number 13.
Oh.
From 1969 until his death in 1977, the King performed 636 shows at the International Hotel in month-long stints of 2 a night. Name the city where the International Hotel was located. Hint. This city is currently the home of the Pacific League AAA Aviators. The AAA Aviators. Tony looks stumped.
Des Moines.
The PCL.
Yes.
It's actually a good movie about Elvis 2019. Love that. I said this.
Well, there was a great one from last year.
That's the one.
Yeah, that was great. Number 14. For all you pop culture people out there. This former major league player, this former major leaguer played in the 1988 comedy starring Priscilla Presley. In the film, he plays himself, a California Angels outfielder who's programmed to assassinate Queen Elizabeth II during the late innings of a pivotal game against the Seattle Mariners. The plot is foiled by the film star Leslie Nielsen, who masquerades as an umpire to get close to the action. This player had only one line in the film: "I must kill the Queen." Who is this King of October who currently serves as a special advisor to the Astros?
Thank God for the.
And what was the name of the movie?
The Naked Gun.
The question.
Also starring O.J. Simpson.
Yes.
All right, number 15. The King of Rock and Roll passed away on August 16th, 1977. 29 years earlier, on August 16th, 1948, this king or sultan of baseball passed away.
Patsy Cline again?
Patsy Cline. I think I gave it away with sultan.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Saudi Arabia.
You don't think so?
If you can find the link to this last one, it's on YouTube. The story. Number 16, Elvis once invited a baseball radio announcer over to his house at Graceland in the mid-60s. The story goes that this announcer was in Memphis one winter night for a St. Louis Billikens basketball game, and the phone rang in his hotel room. Elvis told the announcer, "Been listening to you for years. How are the Cardinals going to do this season? How are the Cardinals going to be this season?" That night, the two stayed up all night drinking, eating barbecue, and telling stories. Who did Elvis invite to his home that night?
Holy cow.
That is a great story. If you haven't heard it.
It may be, it could be.
Everybody sing.
Two clowns in the back are giving away the answer.
One of my favorite towns.
Think you can find that? It's like a 30. There's like a minute video that tells the story. Okay, get ready for the answers.
Sure.
Yes.
Number 1, Elvis was born in Tupelo, Mississippi, halfway across the world. San Vito Al Tagliamano. The same day, one of baseball's original bonus babies. Spent most of his career with the Tigers. Was born. These two were born on the same day. That would be Reno Bertoia. Reno Bertoia. Reno Bertoia.
That's
Detroit Tigers. Number 2, Elvis the Twin. Name Taylor and Tyler Rogers, Giants. Name the other 3. Play on the B teammates.
That's good.
Dillahunty.
Canseco, Jose and Ozzie Canseco, the 1998s. Anybody else?
Giambi's?
No, identical twins.
Oh, they're almost.
Eddie and Johnny O'Brien, 1953, 55 to 58 Pirates. And Joe and Red Shannon, 1915 Braves. This is why John Lloyd needed to be here tonight, right? Number 3, there have been 5 major leaguers named Elvis. Name them. Elvis Andrus. Yeah. Elvis Pena is another.
Luciano.
Elvis Luciano is another.
Paguero.
Elvis Paguero.
No. Stop at 4.
Anybody want to get the last one?
You got 3 more than it.
Elvis Arujo. Play for the Phillies. How dare I? Number 4 then, what's the answer? Elvis Andrus. Number 5, Elvis Presley's third cousin, a relief pitcher from Tupelo. What's the Mets, 8th overall pick in 1993 draft? Name him. Kirk Presley.
What was the answer to number 1?
Reno Bertoia.
Pick up, Mike. No, I have a George.
Yes, you do.
What was the third set of twins?
Third set of twins was Joe and Red Shannon, 1915 Braves. Number 5, Kirk Presley. And he was a great football player. And he did not like the fact that his name was Presley. He got tired of people asking him.
Who was the third set of twins?
Joe and Red Shannon.
Joe and Rich.
Joe and Red Shannon, 1915 Braves. 1915. 1915 Braves.
That's what I don't remember.
Number 6, November 28th of this year, Brian McTaggart reported that this former major leaguer was hired by the Astros to be their new first base coach.
Dave Clark.
Dave Clark. Dave Clark. He's the man. Dave Clark. Number 7. Not Fat Elvis. Who is this? Number 7. Lance Berkman. And the preferred nickname?
Which one? Berkman, the number 7. I didn't get it.
Number 8. 3 points. Name the pitcher, the song, and the artist who sings the song. This Astro pitcher, no relation to the king of rock and roll, enters every game to a song sung by one of the members of the quartet. Brian Presley.
God's gonna cut you down.
God's gonna cut you down. Johnny Cash. Lou, you got number 9? It's a Phillies question.
His name was Mark.
That's right.
That's right.
N.C. Mott, number 9.
I'm surprised. That's why I said,
That's why I said you got the answer, didn't you?
yeah.
See what I did?
I didn't read the
What was his
What was his name?
Elisha Matthew Bitsy Mott. I gave you the answer. See,
Yeah.
I'm a college teacher. I do that every once.
Wait a minute.
I throw you a curveball. The answer is in the question. Come on, Mike. Wake up.
Okay, I've got a lot of players.
I have a feeling this is a different cop. Number 10. Number 10. Memphis was the home of one of the 8 founding members of the Negro American League. What was the Memphis team's name? The Memphis Red Sox.
Yep.
Number 11.
What was the answer to 9 quick cups?
The answer was Elisha Matthew Bitsy Mott. That was the answer.
Smart.
Number 11. Memphis is the home of the AAA Cardinals team. Herb, what's the team name? The Memphis Redbirds. They play in AutoZone Park. That is the Memphis Redbirds.
They moved to Nashville with the hand plate on it, stuff like that.
Number 12. Born 1934, one of the most famous players to ever wear a Memphis baseball uniform. Did not earn his fame as a ball player. He retired from baseball in 1960, went on to become one of the most successful country musicians of all time. Charlie Price. Orthopedics, Eric. What did he say?
Ask him what his answer is.
What's your answer, man? Snoop Dogg? Is that it?
Go ahead.
What's the answer? Okay, no Bud Light for you. The answer is Charlie Bride. Number 13. This city is currently the home of the Pacific League AAA Aviators. Las Vegas.
Wasn't that an interesting thing that Colonel Tom Parker was illegal?
That's right.
Couldn't get a visa because that was going to go on a world tour, but he couldn't get out.
That's right. That's right. That's why
I know. They couldn't even Vegas for 20 years. However long he was there.
Number 14. I must kill the Queen.
Reggie.
A movie line from The Naked Gun. Reggie Jackson.
Yeah.
Actually, heard your watching.
Number 15. This king or sultan of baseball passed away August 16th, 1948. George Herman Babe Ruth. Yeah, the video up?
There's several. I'm not sure which one it is. There's a couple of.
Okay. Number 16. The two stayed up all night drinking, eating barbecue, telling stories. Who did Elvis invite to his home that night? Henry Carey. And there's a great story.
Which one of these do you want?
It's about a minute long, the video.
There's one.
And what?
It's like these. This one.
Yeah, this one right here. This one right here. Yeah. All right. If you've never heard the story, here it is.
Hold on.
And Harry got a phone call. And he said, Harry, yes. Is Harry Carey? He says, yes, it is. Who is this? He says, this is Elvis. Harry goes, Elvis who? He says, Elvis who? what city are you in? I said, I'm in Memphis. He says, and you have to ask Elvis who? How many Elvises you think are here?
And Harry said, oh yeah, right, come on, who are you trying to kid? And Elvis said, no, really, Harry, it's me, Elvis.
So I'll prove it to you, go downstairs in 20 minutes. 20 minutes, he went downstairs, his big limousine pulls up, opens the door.
Harry goes, it might be, it could be, it is, it's Elvis Presley. And he's screaming, hey!
And Harry said, why don't you come at halftime and be my guest? And he said, because Harry, they have a brand new field house, and if I came there at halftime, there probably wouldn't be a field house left. But I'll send my limo for you, and you'll come to Graceland.
And they took him to Graceland.
And there sit Harry Carey and Elvis Presley drinking Budweiser and talking about the Cardinals.
Spent the evening with Elvis, about 3:30. Elvis figured out they hadn't eaten anything yet.
And then Elvis says, oh my gosh, my manners, Harry. I bet you're hungry, we haven't eaten. Do you like ribs? And Harry goes, yeah, I love ribs.
And he said he never met a better looking and more likable young man than Elvis Presley.
How'd you like to be a fly on the wall that night at Graceland? Harry Carey and Elvis Presley.
If this man could cast his spell.
Story. Love it.
Thank you.
All right.
25 answered.
Did they get rid?
I'm sure they did. I think Elvis could swing it. Anybody get 15?
Even at 3. Very.
Fred got 15.
I got 109. No,
Got 109.
yeah, and then number 12 got 100. Greg Lucas had some team winning 220 games.
All right, so how many did you get?
We got 12.
You got 12?
I got 12.
Anybody beat 12? 13. Matthew got 13.
Whoa!
Who?
16.
You got 16?
If you get all the single points for the multiple answers.
Yes, you do.
Yes, I got.
Yeah, you got 4 out.
25 possible answers. You have 16. Fred, congratulations. You get to write the contest next month. I have a gift for you, Fred, for winning the contest. We had a baseball book from John Christian, KHOU. Have fun reading. Thank you. All right. All right, everybody. Thank you again for a great year. Oh, yeah, we got the results of the Hall of Fame vote. There we go. We got the result. Yeah. Tony, how many did you get?
I've got 5.
You got 5.
All right. We had all
right, everybody, here we go.
The total number of ballots was 28.
All right, everybody. Hey, here we go.
The total number of ballots was 28.
You got 28 total ballots.
So to qualify for the Hall of Fame, you had to have 21 or more people named on the ballot.
75.
75%. We had one person. Wow. And it was pretty Philly whacker. He got 82%. He had 23 out of 28. Adrian Beltre missed by 1 vote. So he had 20. Todd Helton had 17. And Gary Sheffield had 15. A lot of people voted for Sheffield because it was his last chance. There were a number of people that didn't get any. Jose Batista, Bartolo Colon, Victor Martinez, Jose Reyes, James Shields, and David Wright. I was a little surprised Chase Utley only got 1. Chase Utley. A lot of people projected he might even have a chance to get on first ballot. I don't see that.
Okay, Dick Career, 300 hitter and 200.
And I think you have to have 15% to stay on that.
10%.
10%. Okay. So other than the ones that didn't get in, Beltran, no, he got 7, so he would still be on the ballot.
This guy out. How many idiots?
Who's this guy?
Yeah.
He has 5, so he'd still be on the ballot. Utley wouldn't be. Rollins wouldn't be. Francisco Rodriguez would barely make it. He had 11%. Brandon Phillips wouldn't make it. Torrey Hunter would barely make it at 14%.
Where's A-Rod?
A-Rod is at 43%, so that's pretty consistent with what his votes have been getting, I think. So
What about Andy?
Andy Pettit's at 32%, which is about consistent with the national, I think. Joe Mauer, I'm surprised, only got 39%. I think he's got a good chance to.
What year is this?
It's one. He probably won't make it, but he'll get it more than 50%.
Yeah.
So he'll make it 5 or 6 years. Any other people you're in?
Manny Ramirez, you say Manny Ramirez?
Manny Ramirez had 12 votes, 43%. That's probably higher. Holiday had 3 votes, so he would be. He would not make it. Then it's his first year on. I think he'll get more than 10% probably. He did with us. Bobby Abreu had, he did. 3 votes is 11%, so he would make it. Bobby Abreu had 3.
Yeah.
On ours.
Let's call Billy.
Yeah, Tony's in.
Let's call Billy. So Herbie will hold on to those, and then next month
So we'll know.
we'll compare this with what the Bill Gilbert chapter, who they voted in. And will we know about it? We won't know about January 15th.
My prediction is they will vote in Beltran.
Beltran, right, and we'll see. That's how we compare. And remember, we're yes, we are all invited to the Rocket Hornsby chapter, January 6th. Besides that, if you haven't been volunteered to work at the Fan Fest, please let Bob know. And all of you have a great, happy holidays. And we'll see you next year for Jay Barrel. All right. Merry Christmas, Happy New Year.